Hi, welcome to the first video that I would like you to watch at home for homework. This video can be found on Packet page 8. If you have your textbook or an electronic copy of it online, this vocabulary can be found on page 25 or on pages 6 to 7 in your book. Basic words in Spanish. Sí means yes, no is no, and perdón is excuse me. As in, you're trying to get through, you need information, you ask someone, excuse me, can you tell me blah, blah, blah. Just like before, we have familiar questions or statements, and we have formal questions or statements. Just to recap from this past Tuesday, familiar questions or statements are used with someone that's your age, someone that you know well, or someone that you call by his or her first name. ¿Cómo te llamas? Means what's your name? You would use this with someone when they're your age, a relative, or someone that you know well. You're not trying to be extra specially respectful to this person. When they reply, they would say me llamo plus their name. Me llamo means my name is. Remember, if I'm going too fast, you can pause the video, rewind, or if you already know this, you can fast forward. Remember that we're using videos to provide support for students that were absent, review materials for tests and quizzes, and to spend more time in class working on things instead of just taking notes. If you found a new friend, you asked them ¿Cómo te llamas? They replied me llamo, and then you wanted to introduce them to someone else that you already knew, you could say te presento a plus their name. Te presento a means I present to you, and then whatever their name is. You would use te presento a if you're presenting that student to another student. If this is confusing, write down any questions that you have. We'll go over them in class on Friday. A formal question is used with someone that is older than you, someone that you want to show respect to, or someone that you don't use their first name with. ¿Cómo se llama? Means what's your name? Remember from class, we decided that you would use a formal question or a formal expression with someone that is a dean or a counselor, a coach, a teacher, maybe your parents or your grandparents. You could use it with me. So for example, you asked me, ¿Cómo se llama? What's your name? I would answer, me llamo, and then my name. Me llamo Señora Giocaris. Notice that the answer is exactly the same as the familiar answer because the person is answering the question. It doesn't matter that I'm older than you. It only matters when you ask me the question. If you wanted to introduce your mom to someone or your grandma to someone, you would say le presento a plus a name. Le presento a means I present to you, and then the name of the person that you're introducing to your mom or your grandma, but it's formal. It's a more polite way of going over it. After someone has been introduced to you, you could say el gusto es mío. The pleasure is mine. You could also say encantado or encantada. Pleased to meet you. Encantado or encantada differ because one is used by girls, encantada, girls say encantada, and boys say encantado. We'll go over why a little bit later, but right now just memorize that if you're a girl and I introduce you to someone and I say te presento a Raúl, you would say, if you're a boy, encantado, and if you're a girl, encantada. If someone says el gusto es mío or encantado, you could reply back igualmente, equally. This you would say after someone else says nice to meet you. So you would say it after another expression. The last one, mucho gusto. Nice to meet you. You can also talk about people as well as to them. So say, for example, we're in the hallway and I see someone across the hall and I don't know who it is. I could say, ¿Quién es?, which means, who is that? My friend would answer, es plus a name, which means he or she is. I can also say, ¿Cómo se llama?, which means, what's his or her name? Instead of saying, ¿Quién es?. Here's the tricky part. ¿Cómo se llama means two different things. It means, what's his or her name? But it also means, what's your name, when you're talking directly to someone and you want to be formal. So we have to use context to decide if you're talking to someone or about someone. Remember, we're going to practice with this information in class. If you're talking about someone, I'm in the hallway, I see somebody, I want to know who they are, I could say, ¿Cómo se llama?, or ¿Quién es?. The response to that is, se llama plus a name, which means his or her name is, and then whatever his or her name is. Essentially, ¿Quién es?, and ¿Cómo se llama?, are the same idea. Es and se llama are the same idea. So there's two different ways to talk about the information. In summary, write out how you would introduce me to your friend. The three of us are standing in the cafeteria. So what would you say to me? You're talking to me to introduce me, an older person, to your friend. And then what would I say after I shake their hand? Step number 2. How would you ask, who is sitting next to you, as in, who is that? Make sure that you have this done for tomorrow, as this is your proof that you worked on the screencast. Thanks!